To celebrate the Pretty series return, I want to finish my ranking saga with all the openings of Pretty Rhythm. Before Aipri starts, I want to do a full ranking of the first series and maybe later discuss Primagi. Points will be given for song choice, symbolism, and visuals. I finished Aurora Dream and Rainbow Live, but unfortunately dropped Dear My Future. I do hope I have enough spoilers to give it a fair chance though. With that said, let's get right into the ranking. At the very bottom, we've got a pretty catchy song that suffers from lackluster visuals. From the very worst season, we have Pampina starts with a sweeping shot of our massive cast before the catchy chant begins. I find the mascots super cute in this shot as they bob around the prism stones. We then get a slideshow of all the characters going about their day in town. Mia's sleeping in her messy room, Reina's walking around town, Karin's shopping for groceries, and Ayami's taking notes in prism stone. Following this, we follow Purity, with Haen jumping happily, Chaekyung enjoying ice cream in town, Somin shopping in Deer Crown, Jaehyun skipping through a park, and Chiyun taking a selfie. Seeing all the girls do mundane things really humanizes them. It's also very dated, but I do love the fashion from this era, especially Purity's look. It's just very classic. We transition to Dark Ira in the Symphonia dress for a slow transformation before speeding past some pretty relevant plot details. I think the pacing in this section is really bad, considering we spent all that time on the slideshow, then the transformation, and now we're just rushing past all this clearly important imagery. I'd say this deserves last place. The ending is nice though. I love Grateful Symphonia, and despite the slow start, it is pretty catchy. Also, if you play them in order, it transitions really well into Boy Meets Girl. This was really hard for me since they're all pretty good, but some have to be at the bottom, which is why at number 8 we have Brand New World is such a hype number to start the show off with. I don't usually like anime rap, but this is amazing considering the girls' real ages. We start on stage with Mia and Haen standing side by side, holding up a number 1. We then cut to the girls watching the same scene on TV before it explodes in a hilarious transition to the character profiles. I love the rapping part and the merch showcase with the Prismy girls. I don't know why, but I'm always fascinated by how kids shows choose to do their product placement, and I think this is a great example. They all strike a cool pose as Purity get their own profiles. The tension builds with a pretty funny bit about Kyoko before she chases the girls over a hill. It's such a high energy segment that I'm still entertained by years later. We get some more hype before the runway shot filled with confetti. This transitions really well into the prism act that ends the opening. While this was a lot of fun, and I think it's a fun opening to watch, it's not a very accurate representation of the show. No offense, but this is a pretty boring part in Dear My Future's story. This opening might give you the impression you're in for something funny and entertaining. That was not the case. That was not my experience, so I'm gonna have to put it near the bottom for misrepresenting what the show's really about. For number 7, we're going a long way back. This opening is a fun, dramatic look into the world of prism shows. The first shot is pretty theatric with Ida posing before red lights as the pink light washes over her. It's such an abstract and flashy beginning that sets the tone for the rest of it. The plaid backgrounds are cute too, as are the fairies in this one shot. The next cut quickly introduces the side characters in a pretty fun dynamic cut. I could talk about each of these forever because there's so much conveyed in such little time. If you know, you know. Next, we see Ida standing in the middle of stock footage, and yes, this is where it started. We see this trend in Pripara openings and Prichan openings, so if you were ever curious, this is probably the first time we have this kind of shot in the Pretty series. The next cut is just as iconic, with the girls rising through space, surrounded by prism stones. I love how we get a good shot of all their outfits, and this really fun animation of Kaname popping up. Mars soars through space into the aurora as callings emerge to meet them. This leads to cutouts of the three couples right after. It's another abstract group shot that's really creative. I love the imagery of this opening because it's not afraid to experiment. So far, it's all been group shots, but each is presented in a new and exciting way. From soaring in space to floating in bubbles, this opening is never boring. It's one of my favorites to rewatch for how surreal it feels. In many ways, it's just as confusing as watching the show was. Pairing this basic love song with some unique visuals really made it stand out. While I love unique visuals, it is an opening ranking, so you do get points for telling us about the show. Despite this song being much tamer, I think it's a very solid template for what any show's opening should do. Boy Meets Girl is the quintessential pretty series opening. We've got fun visuals, storytelling, and merchandise. The first shot is timed to the guitar as we see our main three revealed. A quick shot of our main two locations leads us into the girls' prism show. The three skate onto a rainbow as the screen is filled with all the prism instruments. Now it's time for the character intros. Naru's our main character, and she's into decorating. Anne is a baker, and Ito is a musician. These shots don't just show their skills, but also their personality. Naru's quite cheerful, Anne is more relaxed, while Ito is standoffish. We're only a few seconds in, but I know at least two things about each character. The next characters we meet are the three boys. Their intros are even briefer, but get their major traits across. Hiro flicks his hair with arrogance, Kazuki leans back with energy, and Koji sits silently in contemplation. In just 3 seconds, that's all you need to know for how the boys are gonna act. It's very efficient characterization. The cycle repeats with our third trio, the girls of Edel Rose. Otoha is introduced with a kind smile. This summarizes who she is, especially in the first arc. Wakana is introduced facing away from the camera. She's holding some prism stones which she uses to fortune tell, but coyly hides them when she turns to the camera. This gets across her hobby and her cat-like persona. I also think it suits Wakana as a character who hides her true desires to face away from the camera. Finally, we have Belle, who is clearly in charge by her awareness of the camera. Previously, the two girls were caught off guard by it, but Belle is fully aware of the viewer's gaze and strikes a pose in confidence. It's this shot that really cements her as the girls' leader. While Otoha was smiling shyly and Wakana hid her prism stones, Belle strikes a pose as the music builds up to the chorus. It's small details like this that go a long way. And now it's time to perform. Naru inserts her ID, meets Megane, and shows off the series' chord change. This cuts straight to one of the most relevant shots in the series. A crying Rin floats by with Amo Jun looming above her. It's some of the best foreshadowing we've seen so far. I also like how it leads into both Naru and Rin's prism life, tying the characters together throughout this sequence. The final shot has our three girls standing side by side as the sky fills with rainbows before they sign off in their outfits. As the first opening of Rainbow Live, Boy Meets Girl packs a lot of detail into just 90 seconds. Beyond this, there isn't a lot you wouldn't know, besides a few key characters and relevant relationships. Despite that, I do think the song is quite tame and could use some more energy to start off this season. For a much better example, let's get into number 5. Despite me dropping the season, I can't deny how good this opening is. Dear My Future is a really hopeful tune that I struggled to keep any lower than this. I had no choice but to bump it up after giving it a proper analysis. The stage opens up to welcome in a new protagonist. She's joined by her friends cloaked in shadow as a new world unravels. I don't think there's a better start to a season than this OP. It has a pretty epic beginning and I'm already excited to see the girls in action. Mia runs into focus, showing her active and determined personality. Karin and Reina are characterized as more mellow, while Ayami's pretty meticulous, taking notes on everything. Kyoko looks over the water, but her love for money distracts her as we cut to Jun making an ominous entrance. I don't remember DMF too much, but I know there were a lot of weird characters, so I'm assuming he's one of those. He's very cryptic throughout the whole series. Ida returns with a new love interest, and the rest of Mars are back with her. This transitions into a fiery Mia getting ready to win. The next cut is really smart since the chord change loops right back to the first shot. It's really smart and gives us room to pan across the side characters. This one shot of Purity is especially iconic. When paired with the vocals, it's just a really great sequence. Finally, we end it with Mia reaching out for a prism stone as her friends join her. This one shot of her hand really embodies her desire to be number one. It's such a fun introduction to the new season, and it gets me pretty excited to watch. For this reason, I think it's the perfect opening to start off the top 5. At number 4, we have a song that proves sometimes you just can't beat the original. The iconic number that started it all, You May Dream, is a really fun introduction. It starts with a dramatic walk toward the stage before we zoom past the characters turned away and up toward the spotlight. From here, we quickly introduce the main characters and their mascots. Ida's waking up with Rabichi, Rizumu's tying her ponytail, and unlike the rest, Mion is already put together and ready to go. The girls meet together at Prismstone, and I love how this little sequence shows off their personality. They play dress up and pose with Meganef, who makes her first appearance. Next up, we see Calling spinning through space. It's a pretty cool shot that reminds me of what's coming in the second OP. Ida tosses a Prismstone that transitions into the 3 girls performing. It's a really upbeat section with a chorus, and I just love the way the girls are animated. I also love the ominous Jun shot before the trio attempt an Aurora Rising. There's also a fun cameo of Sonata, which is pretty great foreshadowing. The opening ends with the 3 girls skating into place and posing. It's a pretty classic OP with lots of fun, cute details, and for that reason, I'm placing it here. Now, before we continue, I would love to honor a very odd addition to this franchise. Since it's coming back soon, I think we should acknowledge Shiny 7 Stars is a really hype opening. I think it does a pretty great job showcasing what's amazing about King of Prism. The opening won't get too much focus here because I might cover it later, but I love how it quickly shows off everyone's personality and summarizes all the conflicts in this one sweeping cut. Apart from that, it's also a very catchy song, so if you don't mind too much fan service, you could definitely check this out, but it's very different from the rest of the Pretty series. If you want to stay in wholesome territory, I would say to avoid it. To start off the top 3, we've got our very first tie. These openings are quite similar, and given their material, it only feels appropriate to place them together. Easy Do Dance is the second opening of Rainbow Live, and a pretty fun cover. I always love the start with all the girls bopping, and I love seeing the 7th chords. We count down to 1 and get a glimpse of Naru's life. First she wakes up, then rushes off to school where she meets Ann and Ito. I love how Ito is leaning against the wall. She's such a teenager trying really hard to look cool. We see them talk in class before posing for a picture together at Prismstone. Now it's time for Belle Rose, and once again their character is so clear just through the direction. First up is Belle, their leader, walking forward with confidence. Next up is Wakana, looking laid back, and finally, Otoha struggling to keep up. This mirrors her struggles with the group, and is reinforced by the group shot right after. The boys get a pretty nothing shot here, but to be honest, they're not doing much at the start of the show, so that's fine. There's a cute shot of Naru and Rin, but what I'm focused on are these amazing stills that show the arc's main conflicts. First, we see Ann's conflict with Wakana, then all of Belle Rose facing different directions, which is a pivotal part of this arc. before finally seeing Belle all alone as a single tear rolls down her face. I found this really intriguing, and even when I first watched it, I was always really curious about what that meant. That's a huge bonus in this ranking. I think an opening should always make you curious about what's coming in the arc. The rest of it is cute stock footage, but despite that, I love that both units are together for the final shot. It's a really fun OP that's mostly storytelling for this specific core of the anime. Following up on this arc, we've got our next entry, which also tied at number 3. Crazy Gonna Crazy always makes me feel nostalgic. Something about the song just appeals to me. You don't really hear beats like this anymore. The song is somewhat like a sad memory, and this emotional weight is felt throughout the opening. We see glimpses of the girls' lives, and now that their personalities are established, we can see them living their daily lives. The transitions are especially creative, linking each girl almost seamlessly. I love Naru and Rin living in domestic bliss, An watching TV while doing her homework, and Ito getting nervous on an evening date. They all feel like grounded, relatable scenarios that the kids at home might engage in. It's especially cute that Ito's pair friend is giving her pointers. For the other half of the cast, Wakana lets her hair down, Otoha simmers some tea, and Belle lets her guard down. Really shows how far they've come to see them in such relaxed situations. But regardless, we've still got problems. In between the montage of the girls' work, we see some subtle storytelling for all members of Belle Rose. I especially love how creative this shot of the love triangle is. Even when I watched it, I found it very interesting. Another great shot is the shot of Naru lying in a bed alone. It follows up really well from the previous OP, where her and Rin lay in the moonlight. Now the day has come, and the moon is gone. Very subtle foreshadowing for what's coming later in the show. The chorus gets really sentimental with the duos, and this ominous shot of the adult characters. The 4 of them will really take up these final episodes, so it's good to establish them here. Finally, we get the confirmation that Rin just might be leaving. It ends on a somber note as the girls meet under the night sky, a stark contrast from the previous OPs, which ended in daylight. I think these two really carry Rainbow Live into the top 3 because they're both so good. Rainbow Live was really story heavy, so they had a lot to work with. Easy Do Dance and Crazy Gonna Crazy do lots of work to set their respective arcs' tone and general conflict. I really enjoy them, so I decided to put them together at the start of the top 3. Now that I've let my Rainbow Live bias show, I think it's only fair to give the other season I couldn't finish a fair shot. This isn't just one of the best in the franchise, this is one of Prismi's greatest songs. I love Life Is Just a Miracle. I play it all the time, and I think it's a pretty good OP. There might be some song bias, so let's analyze it to make my case. We're off to a great start with this beautiful shot of Mia floating in a void of prism stones. It's very abstract and catches my attention immediately. This arc gives us great character intros with really too many to count. I love how fun and dynamic it is. Even the Collins shot is unique. The pacing is great and it's full of energy. The tone shifts a little for Kyoko's backstory, but we're back with a bang as all the girls turn their attention to the sunset. This part means a lot to me since it shows how, despite being so different, we all look up at the same sun. It really resonates with the lyrics that are focused on peace and unity. What a beautiful part of the OP. Another part that moves me is the final sequence. Starting with Prismi in this gorgeous lighting before panning up towards Purity. Mia and Hain go at each other and it looks like they're about to fight, but instead they hold hands and dance together. It's an effective way of driving home the opening's themes. Finally, we see Ida pull off this impossible move as the characters gather in one big group shot. While I admit I probably missed some stuff, there's no denying that this opening is really emotional, and I think it should have been Dear My Future's final opening. Panpina just drops all this sentimental energy in exchange for a brighter pop sound, a catchy pop sound, but a worse song overall. If you've been on this channel for any amount of time, then number 1 should not surprise you. There was only ever one song it really could be. At number 1, we have the greatest send-off a franchise can get. Butterfly Effect puts everything to good use. Not a single second is wasted and you really feel the buildup of all the previous OPs. It acts not just as the end of Rainbow Live, but also the end of Pretty Rhythm, and for that its tone is quite sentimental. The opening starts at the end of winter, with the ice melting and the trees bare. We cut to the same place we've seen before, as the girls step forth into a new season. After the logo, we get these intimate close-ups with a shaky cam that carry a weight we don't see much in the franchise. The characters are deep in contemplation, as we see flashes of their past. We've never really seen anything like this before or even after. It creates a very unique mood. With all the reveals at this point, the show can just blatantly show the conflicts as directly as possible. Norizuki Jin looms over Edel Rose, with Belle and Hito's lives in his hands. I don't like that they're nude, but otherwise it's a pretty great shot. Next we see Hijiri looking off with June behind him and an angry DJ Koo in the foreground. This is a great tease for multiple future events, so if you haven't seen it, please go watch Rainbow Live. The boys get their best shot yet, as we see them come together from their different backgrounds. Before this, Hito's poverty was unknown, but here we get a raw look at all their surroundings. I love this shot up over the rainbow, and the quick montage of all the families. Bonus points for the merchandise shot, but I'm taking a few off for the chain fan service. This is on screen for less than a second, so who is this for, you know? The Blu-ray viewers? The chorus kicks in with a pretty hype battle on the moon. It's similar to Mia and Hain, but this time the girl seems serious. As Rin looks back on her memories with Naru, she sheds a single tear. This cuts straight to Naru looking hopeless in the dark, which is another trend we see later on. But anyway, her friends are here to help, and together they form a rainbow. What a blast this opening is. It's so much fun to go back and look through this OP and remember what a masterpiece Rainbow Live was. The whole of it feels like a massive send-off, and it still gets me emotional. So now that you've seen my ranking, what would you say is the best Pretty Series opening? If you enjoyed this, be sure to let me know, and stick around for more content on magical girls and idols. With Himitsu no Aipri airing today, I'm really excited to see what kind of opening we're gonna get. But until we cover that, see you guys next time.